And welcome to Wednesday, June 5th on the Vince Coglianese Show. Vince still in sick bay, but going the right direction. He's on the road to recovery, on the rebound. My name is Mike Opelka, and I will be here again today and God willing through the week. And then Vince, we'll see, should be back soon. Thanks for being here. What a day. When we left yesterday, we just started talking about something that exploded in the news world overnight. I should have warned you, I'm using that language, exploded in the news world, not like bombs or anything, but just meaning it went everywhere. The story of Joe Biden's cognitive challenges. And I had just started talking about it. At the end of the show, we were starting to get little drips and drabs of the story out of Time Magazine. The interview that Joe Biden did with Time Magazine that ended up being, I guess we could say this might be the beginning. Is this the first crack in the dam? Because the mainstream media has forever and ever and ever. Mainstream media has forever and ever and ever been carrying water for Joe Biden, especially when it comes to his cognitive decline, which has been so apparent to so many of us. And just in the last few weeks, we've seen things like Saturday Night Live, which had been loath to feature Joe Biden in any kind of sketches that would mock him, has started to do that. They have started to, well, they're still telling Trump jokes, but they're also going after Joe Biden. They're in their summer hiatus now. Those people, they don't work that much. But this story in the Wall Street Journal headline, "Behind Closed Doors, Biden shows signs of slipping." Boy, is that an understatement. Show signs of slipping? Well, we've seen the physical slipping. We've seen the stairs problem. We saw the bicycle problem. We saw the sandbag on the stage at the Naval Academy a year ago. We've seen those kinds of slippages. But we've also seen what I think the medical community correctly calls brain farts. I think that's what they're called. I could be wrong. There may be a Latin term for that. Perhaps one of the Latin scholars in the audience will come up with the correct Latin terminology to describe what Joe Biden experiences when his brain just doesn't work, when he brain farts. The folks over at Fox News earlier today opened up one of their hours with a little montage of said moments from Joe Biden.
And him lying around, actually.
4 more years, pause.
The president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate.
Said, I'm going to be a president for everybody, whether you live in a red state or a green state.
Wait a minute. What was that last part?
Said, I'm going to be a president for everybody, whether you live in a red state or a green state.
Yes, if you live in a red state or a green state. It's the green state. Are those the states that vote for Jill Stein? Boy, oh boy, that montage could have gone on for a very long time. A very, very long time for Joe Biden and his brain farts. Again, if somebody's got the Latin translation, I know my brother Gregory, who is a language scholar, Latin, Greek, etc., Russian, he could come up with it. Greg, if you're listening, please text me the correct Latin translation. But anyone else, 888-630-9625 is the number here on the Vince Coglianese Show at WMAL. Joe Biden and his campaign have got to be in panic mode because I know the Wall Street Journal isn't necessarily a place they expect to have their water carried for them. But this story covering his brain problems, and it's pretty intense. I'll give you a little clip here from the second paragraph. In a February one-on-one chat in the Oval Office with Speaker Mike Johnson, the president said a recent policy change by his administration that jeopardizes some big energy projects was just a study. According to 6 people at the time, told at the time about what Johnson said had happened, Johnson worried about the president's memory had slipped about the details of his own policy. They talk about Joe Biden pausing at great length, mumbling, and appearing to have to rely on notes. Now, we've seen this. We've seen him rely on notes many times when he calls on members of the press. He not only has a note card, but he has the photograph of the reporter he is supposed to call on. But this is a big stinking deal that this is coming up now. It's a big stinking deal. And so the White House tried to get out in front of it today, tried to send out some human assets, if you will. Adrienne Elrod, one of the top spokespersons, I guess I'm supposed to say spokeswoman, but I don't think they know what a woman is. Top Biden spokeswoman Adrienne Elrod was asked about Joe Biden's cognitive function and if that should matter.
How much should a candidate's cognitive function factor into that decision when someone votes?
I don't even know what that question means. I mean,
when they vote, should they be thinking about which candidate, how they're functioning cognitively?
Sure, absolutely. They should.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Adrienne Elrod, Senior.
We'll leave it at that. Boy, she must be drinking from Kamala Harris's cup. I don't even know what that question means. It's not that tough of a question, young lady. Earlier, they asked her about Joe's brain problem as well, and she said something equally ridiculous.
I can tell you that he is sharper than ever. And again, I want to go back and really underscore the fact that his record is very strong. He's achieved more as president than at least the past 4 to 5 presidents before him. You cannot get that done if you don't have all of your faculties about.
So she claims he's gotten more done than the previous 4 or 5 presidents before him. Well, I wonder what Barack Obama thinks about that. I wonder if Barack Obama's sitting there thinking, hold on a second here. I had 2 terms, and you're telling me in 3.5 years he's gotten more done than I did in my 2 full terms? I wonder if that question, that statement is going to be questioned by the truth tellers. But it's not going to work if they keep telling us, well, Joe Biden is sharper than ever. Boy, oh boy, I'm going to get out the montages today. I think we have some help on my language question, too. So this is good. This is good. Mike in Gainesville is calling, and maybe we'll adopt this term. Mike, welcome to the program, sir.
Hey, Michael. Good to talk to you.
Well, I'm glad you're here. Are you a Latin scholar, sir?
No, I took Latin in high school. I didn't pay much attention, but I believe the term we're looking for is either crania flatuli or cerebrum flatuli.
Okay, we're going to look at either crania flatuli or cerebrum flatuli. Maybe someone in the medical world who has a better grasp than just high school Latin. Yeah, I took high school Latin too. The Jesuits beat it into me, and I barely remember anything. The only thing I remember is semper ubi sub ubi, which rhymes, but it grammatically incorrect, means always wear underwear. But it's not grammatically correct. It's where the location, not where. So maybe crania flatuli. Maybe we'll go there. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Christopher in North Kakalaki is joining us. Christopher, North Carolina. Welcome to the program, sir.
Glad to hear you on the radio and pray for Vince. But the terminology you're looking for is non-compos mentis.
Now, isn't non-compos mentis just mean his brain doesn't work?
Right. That would be a mental state, non-compos mentis.
Yeah, okay. I'm looking for something that talks about these verbal verbal ejaculations, if you will, when he just says stuff that don't mean anything, you know.
Yes, sir.
But non-compos mentis, that might work too. But I like this angle of looking at crania flatula. Maybe. Mike, Christopher, what do you do in life?
I'm retired Air Force, ride a little motorcycle, belong to a local church, do what I can, help the community here in Fayetteville.
I love it, sir. I love it. And thank you for your service to this country. It is greatly appreciated. We salute you. And be safe on that motorcycle. There's a lot of cars that aren't paying attention for people like you. But appreciate you being there, Christopher.
It right. Look twice. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, so maybe non-compos mentis. President non compos mentis, President crania flatula might be there. If somebody has a better explanation, I'm actually writing down crania flatula, otherwise I would forget it. But if someone has a command of the Latin, the ancient language of Latin, which I know is only used pretty much in medicine these days, we would appreciate it. That would be a good help. Flatula, great. Not something I planned on talking about, but I'm just sitting here thinking that we've got to come up with an explanation for this. And for the Biden campaign to send out a spokesperson to tell us that he is sharper than ever is just not believable. It's not plausible. And I don't know if these people understand how silly they look, how foolish they appear. It really is crazy. We have so much bubbling up today. So many things to get to today. We're going to get an update on the Hunter Biden trial, which there is a lot of discussion, a lot of expectation that the jury nullification effect will happen in the Hunter Biden trial, meaning the jury knows that Hunter's guilty, that all the evidence points to the commission of the crime, but because it's friendly turf, Wilmington, Delaware, Biden land, if you will, for God's sakes, his name's on the train station and a rest stop. That's right. They changed the name of the Wilmington train station to the Joseph R. Biden Jr. train station a few years back. And then there's a rest stop on 95 where a lot of things don't work. So that might be appropriately named. But it is safe territory for many Bidens. And you wonder if the jury will say, yeah, we know he knew he was on drugs, but, it's Biden land. We got to make sure we don't convict him. So will that happen? We'll talk to Tony Schaefer about this a little bit later. He's got knowledge, not just about the story, but also about the laptop, which if we really want to be doing something good, Congress should order the people in the Pulitzer Prize world to consider Miranda Devine for some kind of award for the work she did exposing the Hunter Biden laptop. And her book, The Laptop from Hell, a couple summers ago, if you didn't read it, it's worth your time because it really was the first full accounting of this laptop and all of this. But we'll have Tony Schaefer on a little bit. He's on regularly on the Saturday morning update on the weekends. And Brianna Lyman is going to join us from the Federalist next hour to talk about, we got to talk about the elections coming up. Of course we do. And we do have, as you heard in the news earlier, we have the Attorney General of the great Commonwealth of Virginia, Jason Miyares, is going to join us. There are a couple of stories about laws that come out of California that if and when they are passed in California, then suddenly they take effect in many states around the country because Democrats made that so in the past. And those laws relate many times to your cars, the cars you can drive, choose to drive, or are kind of nudged into driving. One of the laws California is trying to make happen, and this sounds like you're making it up, Mike, and no, it's not. It's a real law. It sounds made up. It's real, I'm telling you. These are the conversations I have with myself. California wants to force cars when you are going 10 miles over the speed limit to constantly honk the horn and flash the lights. Now think about that. When you're driving your car, especially if you're driving on the highways around here, and if you're driving the speed limit, people are giving you the finger most times. But if you exceed 10 miles an hour in California, they want the cars to have devices, mechanisms that will automatically trigger the horn to honk and the lights to flash. And if it passes in California, it's going to be applied in a handful of states. We have to talk about what the Commonwealth of Virginia is planning on doing to prevent these kinds of crazy laws from coming here. So much to get to today. So many great guests. I've got some really incredible clips. I said yesterday, where's Kamala Harris? Well, we found her. She was out in California yesterday on the Jimmy Kimmel show. We'll talk about that. And as I said, you're welcome to join us. 888-630-9625. It is 3:26 on a Wednesday, and yeah, it could be kind of dicey weather-wise today. So just Keep that umbrella handy. Look for high ground, maybe. What I heard, well, we might get 1 or 2 inches an hour. Come on, yikes. We were talking earlier about the Wall Street Journal article questioning Joe Biden's cognitive issues. And a lot of this stems from a story we referenced at the end of the show yesterday. And this was the Time magazine interview with Joe Biden when they were fact-checking him on his statements on inflation and talking about inflation, which he's really not telling the truth when he makes the statements he makes. And then he also was mistaking Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping. He meant Xi Jinping, but he mentioned Putin. So this led to even more curious questions about this article in Time magazine. And at one point, it appears that Joe Biden even wanted to challenge the writer to a physical contest, saying, I could take you. What planet is this considered normal behavior? Seriously. Although, if you're Joe Biden...
I see a future of the planet.
Yes? Joe, what do you see in the future?
I see a future of the planet.
Okay, a planet. Is it a green planet or a red planet? We'll get into this and more. Tony Schaefer joins us next. Opelka in for Coglianese on WMAL. It is the Vince Coglianese program. Mike Opelka, my name. I'm sitting in for Vince as he recovers. And he's going the right direction. And with all due speed, I'm sure. He'll be back before you know it, and at 100%, and that's the most important thing. But you can keep praying for him. Nobody's mad at that. We're waiting on Tony Schaefer to join us, but before we get there, I asked earlier in the show, could we come up with the correct Latin term for Joe Biden's issue with the brain farts, as I like to call him? Because his brain locks up on him quite regularly. Or he just misses a shift and he's idling there. And so many of you have called in. Let's see if we can do a little lightning round on the phones. 888-630-9625. Robin is in Martinsburg, West Virginia. Hello, Robin.
Hello there. Thanks for taking my call.
Of course.
So I'm actually a registered nurse, and I work in geriatrics, and I work with seniors exclusively, and a lot of them with dementia. And while I don't know the Latin term for it, what we see with the president is what we call expressive aphasia. So I understand what people are saying to you, but you could also have expressive aphasia where they can't get the words out that they want to say. And we see this a lot of times when we test people with dementia. Like, we'll show them like a watch and say, what is this? And point to the watch. And they won't necessarily that's a watch, but they'll compensate and say things like, that's the thing that you can tell. See that with the president, people with dementia, they have long-term memory, but not short-term memory. See him compensate by his short-term memory loss by referring back to old stories. When I was a kid growing up in Scranton, he goes back to that's how he compensates for short-term memory loss. So that's just my take on it.
Interesting, very interesting, and thank you for all your work with people who have memory issues and advanced brain issues. It takes a lot of patience. It's really important. Thank you, Robin. Neil is in Brooklyn. Neil, I should have counted on someone in Brooklyn for Latin scholarship. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Opelka. Prayers to Vince, of course, just to get that on the table there. My dad had an expression for such rarefied intellectual neurodivergence like Joe Biden, and he called them rectum cerebellum, which I think covers the waterfront between Latin and Pig Latin.
Yes, so. we get the image. Although that would take a certain amount of flexibility that I don't think Joe Biden has at this point in his life. But we see him shuffling along. There are times I look at our president shuffling, and I know he's got issues with arthritis in his spine, but he looks like a human Roomba. You know, the way he's walking? If you've ever seen the way a Roomba machine goes around a room, that's what it looks like to me. And, go ahead.
Well, they both suck.
Oh, I see what you did there. You have earned yourself front of the line at Spumoni Gardens to get a great slice, Neil. Sounds good. Thanks for being there, buddy. Dan is in Indian Head, Maryland. Hello, Dan.
Mike, you always do a great job of filling in on the different WMAL shows. The correct Latin term for Joe Biden is Brainius Farticus.
Brainius Farticus. That sounds like something we would have seen on the Roadrunner and Coyote cartoons. You know, when they used to do the fake Latin underneath it. Brainius Farticus. I'm going to put that on the list as well. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate you being there.
Glad you like it. See ya.
I do. Tony in Tampa, Florida. Tony, welcome to the program. What is on your mind?
Hello.
Hello, Tony. You've got the floor.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I just want to say this. I know a lot of Republicans where I live in Tampa that are going to vote for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said that if you don't believe in climate change, you should go to prison. How do you get those words out of your mouth? He's been immersed in the highest form of politics all his life, and he says something like that, something off the wall like that, like a junior high school student. That's absolutely amazing, and that doesn't bother me. What bothers me is you got Republicans in Tampa, where I live, that are going to vote for him as opposed to the great Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's a really interesting statement. It does bother me when I hear some people saying RFK Jr. might be a good running mate for Donald Trump. But there is news today that you should be aware of. Newsweek had this in a headline story saying RFK Jr.'s popularity has collapsed. At one point, he was polling in the middle teens in terms of all the potential voters. And now it appears like it's gone way down with his unfavorable score hitting a new high. So I don't think he's a real threat to win any state. But what you do have is one of the things that you've just correctly identified here, Tony. RFK could affect the race in some of the swing states. And so it would be unwise for anybody who claims to be a Republican or generally votes Republican to waste their vote on him, especially in a swing state. Now, Florida's not a swing state, so it might be your folks, your friends, if they are your friends, are planning on a protest vote, because you could kind of see that as happening. But RFK Jr., who may or may not be on a debate stage anywhere, appears to have a considerable drop in his chances of becoming a serious candidate. I don't think he's going to win a single state, but like I said, he could hack away at support and cause a swing state to go a different direction. I still think he takes more away from Biden than from Trump, but based on your anecdotal polling, it's differently. Do you really feel like there are people who actually would vote for him over Trump but still claim to be Republicans?
Yes, I do, because I've talked to them, and I don't what they tell me goes over my head, because I can't understand what they're talking about. Why would you vote for Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who said if you don't believe in climate change, you should go to prison? How could you vote for some kind of a nut that would make a statement like that over the great Donald Trump?
It's a great question. I can't argue with that kind of logic, and it just shows you that there are some people, and maybe it's because they're from a generation that looked at the Kennedy family as that Camelot in America. Remember, there was a certain amount of mystique to the Kennedy family that's certainly diminished over the years, and maybe they're hearkening back to that era. By the way, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think today is the anniversary of the, was today the day? Yes. Robert Kennedy, his father, was shot by Sirhan Sirhan on this date in 1968. And I remember it was late at night. He didn't die on this day. He died the next day early in the morning. It's just interesting the way history keeps circling back to us. But yeah, his dad was set to become basically the Democrat nominee, and you had crazy Sirhan shoot him, and the old football player Roosevelt Greer was involved in the group that took him down and grabbed him. But a tragic night. So Kennedy is a Democrat. Kennedy will always be a Democrat. He'll always be a liberal. And anybody who thinks that Donald Trump would be wise to take him as a running mate obviously isn't really paying attention. Thank you, Tony. Very interesting take on that. I appreciate you. Leo is calling from Front Royal to share his Latin knowledge. Leo, you have a suggestion for us?
I think we should call it Brainius Arcticus because he freezes up.
Oh, so like Arctic. So Brainius Arcticus. Brainius Arcticus. So maybe he has a brain freeze. Yeah, I was calling them brain farts because they come out. Whereas his brain does lock up at times, and there are times when it just starts spitting stuff out. You know the thing. The thing. Mm-hmm. It is funny, but it's tragic at the same time because he is the most powerful man in the free world. All right, I'm putting Brainius Arctic. Go ahead.
Also, it's like when the glaciers, they start falling apart when he can't speak intelligently.
Well, like when they start calving, when giant chunks of the glaciers fall off.
Precisely.
It does make a loud sound, too. It really is a loud thing. I appreciate you being there. Thank you. Anyone else wants to join in and suggest, you can. We were waiting on Tony Schaefer. He may have gotten his times confused. We'll see if we get him a little bit later in the show. I want to follow up on something. Yesterday, late in the program as well, as we were reviewing the hearing with Merrick Garland, AG Merrick Garland, Representative Thomas Massey from Kentucky's 4th District, I played a clip of Thomas Massey going back and forth with the Attorney General, talking about the appointing of the special counsel. I don't know if you remember it from yesterday. I'll give you a little snip of the back and forth. Yesterday, Representative Thomas Massey grilling the Attorney General.
I ask unanimous consent to submit for the record an amicus brief by the former Attorney General Edwin Meese. Without objection. The question presented is whether private citizen Jack Smith lacks authority to represent the United States. I also ask unanimous consent to submit for the record an article titled, "Was it legal to appoint Jack Smith in the first place?" This is a Heritage publication. Without objection.
So with those documents presented by Representative Massey, he went on to question whether or not the normal procedure had been gone through in order to appoint Jack Smith, and it has not. And so there was a question as to whether or not the legitimacy of Jack Smith's special counsel office is even legal. Is there a problem with this? Now, here's the follow-up to that. A few hours later, Judge Cannon, in the Florida case, agreed to allow that same question to be debated in the courtroom as to whether or not the Trump team has requested to declare the special counsel's appointment invalid. And based on, you got to believe that based on what Thomas Massey brought to light yesterday, that this is why this is going forward. So the accomplishment, because a lot of us are saying, what do these hearings accomplish? What do they ever accomplish? Well, maybe, just maybe, in the case of the Merrick Garland hearing, this has forced the judge in the Florida case with Jack Smith to allow the Trump team's question to go forward with serious consideration. Judge Cannon, here's the headline, Judge Cannon expands hearing on Trump's request to declare special counsel's appointment invalid. Now, we know that entire case, the documents case, is currently on delay, too, because of all the other shenanigans from Jack Smith's team. You know, they brought props when they set up all the documents by the copier machine. They brought pages that said top secret and laid them out on the ground. They were actually like setting up a scene. So there's enough questions there, I think, that thing is probably going to go away. We shall see. All right, before I take a break here, this is just too much fun. I have to get through this hour. So many of you are offering your Latin translations for what I'm trying to label as brain farts for Joe Biden. Fred in Springfield is on the phone. Fred, welcome.
Hey, Mike. Good job for Vince as usual, and our prayers go out to Vince. And the Latin term that you're looking for, and it's also a very medically specific term, it's a rectal cranial inversion.
Yeah, we've done the rectal rectal inversion, and I think Chris may have said that too. But I'm talking about the specific condition. No, it's okay. I'm talking about the condition when he opens his mouth and the words come out and make no sense. They're just like, dumb, silly.
We'll call it a rectal cranial confusion.
Confusion. I like it. Well done, Fred. Thank you. Chris in Fairfax is with us. Chris, you have another one as well?
Yes, Mike. Let's add to your long list of etymological words. I would add cerebrum crepitu, which literally means a crash or brain freeze.
Oh, cerebrum crepitu. I like crepitu.
Crepitu.
What, you didn't think I knew my Latin spelling? I'm going to go through the declining of the verbs. Or SMT, mustis, NT. We had to go through all of them.
Very good. I think that might hit it spot on.
Oh, this is good. I'm writing this down. Cerebrum crepitu. That sounds like a Star Trek character, too. Crepitu. Yeah, try the crepitu. It's fresh today. Thank you very much, Chris. That's great. One more. I got to do one more here. Dennis in Annapolis. Hello, Dennis.
Hi. I don't have I kind of have a Latin phrase, but I'm a physician. I want to just chime in on the issue of the avoidance of a cognitive test by Biden's physician, who I think is maybe borderline incompetence if he just keeps dodging this, and he's never presented for the press to talk to about Biden's cognitive condition, which everybody can see, and you don't need an MD degree to see that how bad it is.
There are a lot of us who've questioned it, and now if we want to play fair, and I always think we should, we go back to Dr. Ronnie Jackson under Donald Trump, who was also there before Trump, and he gave a lot of information, and the media immediately downplayed it. But they have no curiosity about Joe Biden's doctor and the fact that we can't know why he won't take a cognitive test. That bothers me, Dennis.
Yeah, it's Kevin O'Connor's the doctor's name, and they keep saying, "Oh, he doesn't need one. He doesn't need one." The whole situation begs for a cognitive test, and if they don't want to do a cognitive test, have them do what they call a PET scan to check his brain. That should give you all you need to know. But and then going back to the Latin phrase, the only thing I can come up with, and this affects all of the progressives and the leftists, is called microcephaly. It's small brain.
Microcephaly.
It's a pandemic affecting all liberals across the nation.
It's a political pandemic affecting one party, microcephaly. Dennis, thank you so much, Doctor. We appreciate you for being there. It's Mike Opelka. I can't believe the first hour is already blown by. It is the Vince Coglianese show. Mike Opelka sitting in for Vince. I had to pause there because people keep saying, how do I find Michael Pelka? No, it's Mike Opelka. That's why I tell people pureopelka.com. Or follow me on Twitter or Instagram, Facebook as well. So many of you. I hear from so many from this station because we've been doing things together on the station for a long time. Second hour is going to be a very, very busy hour. And we're going to get into what Kamala Harris was up to. I speculated, where has she been? Maybe she was out meeting with George Soros's kid, Alex, because he's apparently been meeting with people. Are they deciding that it's over for Joe and the future has someone else's name on it? We'll talk about a lot of things coming up just around the corner. on the Vince Coglianese Show on WMAL.